Hi, this video is going to be focused on things you should remember from your previous programming class, whether that be C or Python or any other introductory programming class. These are things, concepts, and things you should remember from these classes going into C++. So, the first thing that we need to remember about C programming in general, because C++ is technically an extension on C programming. But we need to remember that each C program, each program is going to have basically one thing that is very important, and that is the main function. So the main function can be written as main return 0. So at this point, we have a main function that is completely runnable. We can run this, we won't get any errors. It doesn't do anything, but that's okay. The next thing we should remember is how to include header files. Now, header files are important because there's nothing that just comes with C++. We need to, everything we write has to have a function declaration for it so that we can use it. An important one that we use is IOStream. Hashtag include IOStream. Now, IOStream is a library that holds a bunch of functions. We can take a look at it. If we look at the IOStream library in a reference, the IOStream library holds these functions: cin, cout, cerr, clog. These are all things in the IOStream library. Now, when we include the IOStream library in our program, it takes each of these functions and it copies and pastes all of them to the top of our file so that we can use them. So this enables us to use functions like std cout, right? And you always want to end the cout with it, inline, always, right? We can use that because it's in this library. The next thing we need to know about is namespaces. Namespaces are very important in C because namespaces tell us specifically which version of this name we want. So let's say we're not in a namespace, and let's say we name something number. All right, this variable number can mean anything, but we know in the namespace std, the variable number could stand for a very certain thing, and we'll end up making our own namespaces so we can see that. Okay, so once we include using namespace std, we no longer have to do that. And there we go. The next thing we need to know about is declaring variables. Now, strings are not a native type, but there is somebody who made a library in which we can use strings as a type. Cool. So to declare a variable in C or C++, I'm using C because it's a prerequisite for this class. We just say int, so we do type, name, right? And that's all you need. You can do type name equals value, and everything ends with a semicolon. So let's try one. Int name int number equals 1. All right, telling us there's a number type, there's a number variable with type int, and it equals 1. Let's see what happens when I try to put, now we can put a character because characters in ASCII are really just numbers. So that's okay. It would hold the value for whatever C is in ASCII. Or we can say car letter equals C, right? If we just have one letter, it's a character, and we put it in single quotations. Or we can have string name equals DeMarcus. And that works. That works because, and as you can see, that's not, the string is not blue because it's not a native type. It's something we've added. And that works because we're using a library where string is defined. So we could do this. String greeting equals hello world. And then we can put here cout greeting. And there we go. It should output hello world. There you go. Okay. Another thing you need to know about is the, oh, and let me explain the cout. So cout stands for console out. All right. Now you can cout to a file. You can cout to a disk. You can cout to the monitor, which is what we do most of the time. We cout to a console. So when we say cout, it sends. Look at the way the arrows are pointing. Whatever's on the other side of that arrow is being sent to cout, as opposed to cn. Look how the arrows are pointing there. cn, which is usually a keyboard, it could be a file, but your cn is being sent to a variable, because you want to hold whatever the keyboard puts in the variable. Okay, so those are pretty self-explanatory. Next thing we need to know about is the switch statement. I've been programming in a lot of languages, so let me see. Make sure I get this syntax right. Switch. Let's say we just call it and num equals 0. All right. We can say switch num. So what this does is we can put a bunch of cases here. I don't like how we put a bunch of cases. So the 0 case, so that's saying if num is 0, what do? We cout 0. I don't know why it wants to do that so bad. There, maybe that'll make it feel better. If the case is, and if we have more than one line to do, we would just put that in parentheses and put that in a brace. We cout 1. So, and we can always have a default case. So that means if that number doesn't match any of these cases, then we do this. Cout doesn't match cases. Okay. Okay, so let's run it. I may get error because I haven't used a switch statement in a while, but I think I will be decent. Oh, I don't like the way IntelliSense auto changes my formatting here. All right, now can anybody tell me what's wrong? Well, I'll tell you what's wrong with this. A switch statement, the way it works is, what it really does is it starts at whatever case and then keeps going all the way. So what you have to do is tell it break. Now break you can use in loops and you can use in switch statements. And break says, well, whatever you're doing, break. So if it was in a loop and it's going through the loop and then it reaches a break statement, it's going to stop the loop and go to the next thing. If the switch state is happening, it goes to this case, right? And then it says break. It's going to skip the rest of these cases and go to the next thing. If this isn't here, then it'll do case 0, then it'll do case 1, then it'll do default. So now let's see what happens. Right? And as always, since these are on the same line, it can tell that this is together. But what if I did this, then I'd have to put it in a brace. Like that. Alright, and that tells it that everything in those braces is to be done before you move to the next case. Alright? Now, if statements. An if statement is used with a Boolean value. Boolean values are always either true or false. So we can say Boolean fire. Booleans are a type. Boolean fire equals true. Okay? Now, we can say if fired you're fired, else you're not fired. So can anyone can you figure out what this does? Pause the video. Alright, so what this does is it's saying if the variable fire equals true, so it's saying if whatever's in that parentheses, if that is true, then it's going to do what's under the if. If it is false, it's going to do whatever the else. So what if I put this? What if I put this? That says if the opposite of fired. So if fired is true and you want the opposite of fired, that means that this inside space here is actually false, which means that if fired is true, the opposite of fired is false, it's going to execute this, right? Okay, cool. Now we're going to learn about loops in C++. Now, on the screen, I have 3 different types of loops: a for loop, a while loop, and a do while loop. These types of loops are used in different situations depending on the situation. The for loop is used when you know exactly how many times you want to loop. So if we look at this for loop, we have an I equals 0. So this is our counter. This is our counter variable. And what it does is it says I equals 0. Okay, I plus plus. It says I equals 0. It goes through this. At the end, it says and it makes I plus plus. So now I equals 1. 1 is 1 less than 3. It is. So it goes through it again. I plus plus. It's 2 less than 3. It is. So it goes through it again. So on and so forth until we get that 3 is not less than 3. Do you see? Here, we have a while loop. While loops are used when you don't know exactly how many times you want to loop something. So here we have while views is not equal to 6. Okay, well, views is equal to 0. So do we even go into this while loop? Well, yeah, we do, because 0 is not equal to 6. So it does views plus plus. And it keeps repeating this until views equals 6, which makes this condition false, which makes us get out of this for loop. And then we have, this while loop. And then we have a do while loop. Do while loops are used for when you want to do something at least once. Now, we'll probably use the do while loop somewhere in this class. But in most cases, we can get away just using for and while. But the do while loop is exactly the same as the while loop, except you want to do it at least once. So what it does is it runs through whatever is in here, and then it tests, and then it runs through, and then it tests. It's like a while loop upside down. And now we have learned everything we need to know to get started programming for our class. I hope you guys have fun, and I hope this video is very helpful for you. Until next time, goodbye.